Okay, we're going to play a quick game of Name That Movie. Ready? Karate Kid. See, that was easy. Karate Kid, I'm a child of the 80s, so that's one of my favorite movies growing up. And if you don't remember the story of Karate Kid, it is about this young kid who moves from the Bronx all the way to California, and he starts to get beat up by this gang. And in the apartment complex where he lives is this Asian man, and his name is Mr. Miyagi. So he meets Mr. Miyagi, and he starts to discover that Miyagi used to know karate. And so he asks Mr. Miyagi if he would take him on as a student. So Danny LaRusso is his name, and Mr. Miyagi takes him on, but he starts doing very weird things in terms of training. He doesn't do like the normal karate things that Daniel's expecting. So one of the famous ones that we all know is this: wax on, wax off, right? So he learns wax on, wax off, and so he's doing it on one car, and he gets all done with the car. Mr. Miyagi's telling him, you got to wax on like this, wax off like that. And then Daniel's like, I don't know why, I just want to wax it. So he finishes the car, and then he says, now do the rest of the cars. And then the next day he comes there, and Mr. Miyagi's telling him, paint the fence. And so Daniel starts painting the fence, and Mr. Miyagi's like, no, paint the fence like this, like this. So he's like, all right, I got to paint it exactly like he's telling me. Paints the whole fence around the yard, takes him a couple days. He comes back, and Mr. Miyagi says, now, sand the floor. So he's now sanding the floor, both arms, doesn't know why he's doing it. Well, he works on that day and night, and then finally he comes back, and Mr. Miyagi says, now paint the house, but do it this way. So Daniel's learning to paint the house, and finally he gets really upset with Mr. Miyagi. And he says, listen, I've been coming to you for weeks, and you're using me like a slave. You're just having me do your work. What's the point of all of this? And Mr. Miyagi's been teaching him the whole time, only Daniel doesn't realize it. So Mr. Miyagi says to Daniel, paint the fence, or wax the car. He says to him, wax the car. So Daniel begins to make that motion. And as he makes that motion, Mr. Miyagi goes to punch him, and Daniel knocks his hand out of the way. And then he says, sand the floor. And Daniel goes to sand the floor, and Mr. Miyagi kicks, and he kicks his foot out of the way. And he realizes that this entire time, Mr. Miyagi was teaching him. He was teaching him karate. Daniel didn't understand, and by the end of all of this painting and waxing and sanding, his body was sore, it was aching, but he was actually learning something from Mr. Miyagi. And it's neat because as the story progresses, this Mr. Miyagi kind of adopts him as a son. He takes him in and begins to share his life with him. It's a beautiful movie towards the end. Well, for us, God the Father is always teaching us, and sometimes we don't realize it, like through what we're going through. We think like, why God? Why is this happening? Well, it's important to know that everything that happens to us, He's training us. We hear about the word discipline in the second reading. And a lot of us have struggles with discipline, either because we've been abused with discipline or it just becomes something that we don't understand. But God's discipline is always making us a disciple. That's where we get the word disciple, from discipline. And so in the second reading, we hear this: my son, do not disdain the discipline of the Lord, or lose heart when reproved by him. For whom the Lord loves, he disciplines. He scourges every son he acknowledges. Endure your trials as discipline. God treats you as sons, for what son is there whom his father does not discipline? At the time, all disciples seems a cause not for joy, but for pain. Yet later, when he brings the fruit of righteousness and peace to those who are trained by it. Everything that has ever happened to you in life, and everything that is happening now, and everything that will happen, God is training us as disciples. There is nothing pointless. Just like Daniel thought some of the things that he was doing was pointless, all of it had a purpose. And so God disciplines us, makes us disciples through what we endure in life. I know many of you know that my father is progressing in his dementia and Alzheimer's, and I've been going over there at night to put him to bed because he's beyond the point where he can really stand on his own or walk. And so I've learned how to use this sit-to-stand machine. I'm sure many of you know what that is. I didn't. But it's a machine, basically, you push it in front of him, you put like a brace around him, and then it loops up onto the sit-to-stand, and there's a button so you can lift him up. And so I always say, Dad, going up, you ready? And what I noticed the other day is he wasn't strong enough to stand, and so it lifted him up like this, and his head sank, and his legs were crossed, and I looked at him, and I saw Jesus hanging there. And then as I moved him over to the bed and pick him up and put him into the bed, I noticed his legs were crossed, like you see Jesus on the crucifix. And so I've been just pondering, Lord, what's going on with all of this, and watching as my father continues to weaken. And he said something to my mother the other day. He said, Dee, all my life I have prayed for patience, and now I'm finally learning it. All his life he's prayed for it, and now he's finally learning it. The Father's not done with my father. He's continuing to make him a disciple. And through this enduring of suffering, he's learning patience. And my mother and all of us children are learning to love even at a deeper level. Nothing in our life is beyond what God can do with it. Everything that happens in our life, he's allowing or permitting to happen that we may be disciples, that we may endure through our suffering, that he may bring about virtue in us and good in us by that which we suffer. And so maybe there's some times in your life where you don't know the reason for it, and you're waxing on and you're waxing off all day long, and he has a plan. He has a purpose. He loves you as a father, and everything that he does is making us his disciples.